One of the most surprising trades of the past NBA trade deadline was when the Dallas Mavericks shocked everyone by trading Kristaps Porzingis to the Washington Wizards for a package that was surrounding Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. This was particularly surprising considering how Davis Bertans' contract is horrific, arguably worse than Kristaps, and Spencer Dinwiddie wasn't really looking like the player he once was in Washington. The result of this trade was incredibly surprising, and there's something that Kristaps Porzingis has finally been able to do that he wasn't able to do in his career before. Now, before we get to the content, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We also do more general commentary on my third channel, TheFlightMike TV, which is stuff that doesn't pertain to sports, like the Will Smith slap. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. This video is sponsored by Albert. Unlike banks, Albert's actually going to save you money. Instead of just opening up a traditional savings account and hoping that you remember to put some money into it, Albert looks at your income and expenses and sees what money you could save. They offer 5 to 20% cash back from places like McDonald's, Starbucks, and Walmart. And the best part is they have your back so much that they'll spot you up to $250 when you need it. And most importantly, they'll help you manage your money with one of my favorite features on the app, Genius, which is a team of financial experts that Albert has that they call geniuses that will look at your situation and help you come up with a plan and answer any of your questions if you get stuck. And right now, when you go to albert.com/TFM and open up a checking account and connect a qualifying direct deposit, you'll get $150. That's albert.com/TFM to download the Albert app, open up a checking account, and connect a qualifying direct deposit to get $150. And thank you, Albert, for today's sponsorship. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? During the trade deadline, the Washington Wizards traded for Kristaps Porzingis and received a 2022 second-round pick. Dallas got Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Now, this was the end of a very disappointing era for the Dallas Mavericks, as I was a huge fan of the Kristaps Porzingis trade to begin with. The Dallas Mavericks were putting all their chips to the center of the table and doing whatever it took to make the most out of Luka Doncic's rookie scale contract, which, bear in mind, I do NFL content on a channel called Microphone. You guys might have heard about it. Something that typically happens in the NFL that you don't see happening in the NBA is whenever a NFL team hits on a quarterback, like they get a really good player at the quarterback position, they understand that they don't really need to pay that quarterback that much money during the first 4 years of his career. As a result, they go all in and try to get as many good players to surround that quarterback as humanly possible. And you don't really see that in the NBA as much, mainly because it's really hard to find a player that hits the NBA and right away starts to dominate. I mean, off the top of my head, I can only think of a few examples like Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Luka Doncic. And I guess that's really it, unless if I'm forgetting anyone, let me know in the comment section down below. But in only one of those 3 instances did you see the team really understand that they had a transcendent player and do whatever it takes to put as many good pieces around him as possible. Now, the Dallas Mavericks weren't perfect when it came to roster construction, I'm gonna admit that. I mean, when you look at the supporting cast that they were able to get, Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, apart from that, you have players like Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, who at the time I think was a remarkable addition, Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Burke, Jalen Brunson, who has come into his own even now. But if there's one thing that I felt like the Mavericks were lacking, was they didn't really put together the best pieces around Kristaps and Luka. As a matter of fact, if you paid attention to the way Kristaps Porzingis played basketball with the Dallas Mavericks and compared it to the way he played basketball with the New York Knicks, it's not surprising why. Just based off of a pure statistical standpoint, when you look at Kristaps Porzingis' third year with the New York Knicks, obviously it was shortened due to an ACL injury, but the man was really coming into his own, scoring 22.7 points per game, grabbing 6.5 boards, and averaging 2.5 blocks per game. What was really interesting was he shot nearly 40% from 3 that year, so it seemed like a really remarkable year for the man's development. Unfortunately, he was in a situation where the front office of the New York Knicks wasn't the most stable. You had Phil Jackson constantly dangling Kristaps Porzingis in these trade rumors, which wasn't necessarily the greatest look either, because Phil Jackson is a coach that I have a lot of fond memories with, but his tenure with the New York Knicks was horrifically ugly. Let me know in the comment section down below if you want me to make a whole documentary on it, because I want to bring documentaries to this channel as well. Ultimately, what would happen is about 3 years ago, the Dallas Mavericks and the New York Knicks would execute a trade where pretty much nobody would win, like no one at all whatsoever. The Knicks would trade Kristaps Porzingis to the Dallas Mavericks, and they would acquire Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, and 2 future first-round picks. None of those players are currently relevant to the Knicks whatsoever right now. Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of washing out of the league. Wesley Matthews wasn't part of their team for very long, neither was DeAndre Jordan. One of those picks won't be relevant up until next year, and the 2021 unprotected draft pick that they had turned into Keon Johnson. So for the most part, I think it's safe to say that both the Dallas Mavericks and the New York Knicks were huge losers from that trade. But what was even more shocking is what would happen next when Kristaps Porzingis would make his debut with the Dallas Mavericks, after a very much anticipated wait, mind you, because Kristaps couldn't officially play up until the start of the very next season, and the Dallas Mavericks would do something very unique with him. They would play him as a center, and they would run 5 out with Luka Doncic. Now, the issue with this was the fact that Kristaps Porzingis wouldn't be utilized in pick and pops and pick and rolls anymore. As a matter of fact, the best way I could describe Kristaps Porzingis' role was he would stand in the corner and shoot threes. They wouldn't put him in the post at all whatsoever, which was very strange because they also had Kristaps Porzingis bulking up. If you look at Kristaps Porzingis' basic statistics, you'll think, oh my god, he's still averaging 20 points per game. He's averaging nearly a double-double with 9.5 rebounds in his first season with the Dallas Mavericks. His field goal percentage declined a little bit to 42.7%, and his three-point percentage was a 35%, but he was attempting significantly more threes at 7 3-pointers per game. Ultimately, the Dallas Mavericks weren't that successful, and things really started hitting the fan in the 2020 to 2021 season when Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic were rumored to not really be the best of friends off the court, saying that on the court they are fine. I mean, coach is coach, and coach kind of runs the show, so everything gets worked out on the court. That's not to say there aren't dust-ups, because there are. I'd compare it to Jason Terry and Dirk. If you remember when we first got Jet, Dirk was not a fan. Dirk did not like him, and we lost in a playoff series because Jet made a mistake against Steve Nash, and that just made it even worse. They weren't best friends at the beginning, but they grew to like each other and grew to be great friends, and that's just part of the process when you've got young kids who are growing up. It took forever before Dirk and Jet did anything off the court together, a long time. Yeah, I mean, KP and Luka get along fine, it's just that they're different people, they like to do different things. Ultimately, I think the problem with Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic was the fact that Rick Carlisle didn't really put them in a situation where they could thrive together. I think Jason Kidd did a significantly better job this past season, but regardless, Kristaps Porzingis regressed mightily, shooting only 28% from 3 during this past season with the Dallas Mavericks, averaging 19.2 points per game. The writing was clearly on the wall for the one-time All-Star, which is why the Dallas Mavericks decided to ship him for Spencer Dinwiddie. Now, Spencer Dinwiddie has been a godsend to the Dallas Mavericks. He's been performing remarkably well and has been exactly what they needed, and without a doubt kind of looks like the former version of himself. Before playing with the Dallas Mavericks, Spencer Dinwiddie was averaging 12.5 points per game off of 38% shooting from the field. Bear in mind, his Washington Wizards teammates weren't really the biggest fan of his. I guess they just didn't like his conversations about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, but regardless, once he got traded to the Dallas Mavericks, take a look at this. The man is shooting 50% from the field, 39% from 3, averaging 17.5 points per game. The Dallas Mavericks are 11-6 with Spencer Dinwiddie whenever Spencer Dinwiddie plays, so without a doubt, this was the right trade for them. Meanwhile, when you look at Kristaps Porzingis, you're wondering what's next for him. Well, he's in the perfect spot for himself to really have a resurgence in his career. If you pay attention to the Washington Wizards, which I understand why you might not be paying attention to the Washington Wizards, they're nothing like the way they were to start the season when we thought that they were one of the dominant teams in the beginning of the season. Porzingis' numbers have slowly shot up a little bit. He's now shooting 30% from 3, averaging 21 points per game, and in this instance, what is really important is the fact that the game is running through Kristaps Porzingis again. It's kind of similar to the way things were when he was on the New York Knicks, although he has a significantly better supporting cast. Kyle Kuzma has been remarkable in his first year with the Washington Wizards. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has transitioned seamlessly as well. well. Corey Kispert could shoot the lights out. And when Bradley Beal is on the court, he is one of the most dominant scorers in the league. The fact that Bradley Beal isn't playing currently gives Kristaps Porzingis the opportunity to build his confidence back up, get reacclimated to the NBA game, and establish himself as one of the dominant players in the NBA once again, if you think that's possible. Ultimately, the Washington Wizards had no choice but to do this. Whenever you have an opportunity to buy low on a player that was once considered to be a star in the league, you have to take your chances, especially considering the fact that Kristaps hasn't technically hit his prime yet, which is typically when a man turns 27 years old. So all in all, I think this was a great move for both sides and is one of the few win-win trades in NBA history, and hopefully Kristaps Porzingis could take the next step that he needs to in his game to become a great player. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.